Welcome to McKinsey Talks Operations, a podcast where the world's C-suite leaders and McKinsey experts cut through the noise and uncover how to create a new operational reality. Each episode considers the challenges companies and economies are facing and the opportunities leaders can seize for competitive advantage. We'll look at how to connect boardroom strategy to the front lines, ways to increase performance, where and when to infuse operations with technology, and why empowering the workforce with skills and capabilities is key to success. We've spoken before here on McKinsey Talks Operations about the potential of Gen AI and how operations functions in particular can be where the rubber meets the road for implementation. Today we'll focus on the next chapter of AI, Agentic AI, and how it could provide the unlock for next-generation operational excellence and productivity in service operations. The high stakes of continued investment in digital transformation and the potential payoffs. And finally, how collaborations between the CIO and COO and thoughtful talent strategies can set organizations up for continued digital success. I'm your host, Christian Johnson, and I'm joined today by three guests. First, Malte Kosub.
Thanks, Christian, for the invitation. I'm Malte Kosub. I'm co-founder and CEO of Parloa. We're providing an agentic AI platform that helps the most customer-centric enterprises in the world to build and manage millions and millions of AI agents for customer support and customer communication.
Our second guest is Oana, Cheta, a partner in McKinsey's Chicago office.
Thanks, CJ. Great to be here, and thanks for having us. I lead generative AI and agentic AI in service operations in North America, driving innovation and transformation in how businesses operate and deliver value.
And our final guest is Brian Blackader, a partner in McKinsey's Dusseldorf office.
Hi, CJ. Thanks for having me. Like you said, I'm a partner in our Dusseldorf office. I spend most of my time working with service providers in the customer service space, as well as users of contact centers and software providers, everything around contact centers and customer service.
Oana, I would love to start with you. 2 years after the launch of ChatGPT, and organizations are looking to implement generative AI and agentic AI in their operations. What are you hearing today from clients?
Thanks, CJ, and excited to discuss how we finally moved past experimentation. More than 2 years in, companies are shifting from AI curiosity to AI accountability and are fully engaged in execution now, like you said, agentic AI. So what's top of mind for our clients as they move to the next phase? First, ROI and business impact. Companies are under increasing pressure to demonstrate real measurable returns from their AI initiatives and justify for their investment. Next, this is not about automating tasks anymore. It is redesigning how work is done. And this is not an efficiency play, it's a transformation play. So deploying AI alone or generative AI alone is not enough. Companies must redesign their processes to integrate AI at the core of their operations. AI should drive decision-making, workflows, outcomes. It's not just an add-on. Then, of course, there's a build, partner, and buy decision. And then finally, we're moving into the shift from generative AI to agentic AI. The future is not about managing AI. It's collaborating with AI agents that think, act, and optimize in real time.
Excellent. Thank you, Oana. Malte, building on Juana's comment, could you clarify for our audience the links between Gen AI and agentic AI?
Sure. Happy to go deeper into that topic. So everything started with generative AI. That was about creating images, creating text, creating videos. And in the beginning, companies, especially in customer support, used that technology to answer internal FAQs when customers were calling or when customers were reaching out. The second step then was about creating answers to the outside world, so helping customers to get answers through a chatbot. And what we're seeing now is that we are moving from a generative AI world into an agentic world. And agentic AI is more about a goal-driven approach where the AI is capable of making decisions, taking actions with backend systems on behalf of the humans. So we are now moving to this third phase where we see companies actually implementing agentic AI to get a lot of value in actually a goal-driven, process-driven task. And what we are already seeing for a lot of enterprises that they move to the fourth phase where they are integrating agentic workflows to the outside world where actually agentic AI is helping customers in real time to solve problems with back-end systems.
So how do companies prepare themselves for the two big transitions you've just described? First, to agentic AI internally, and then to linking agentic AI to the outside world.
What is important to get right is to build a process how to deploy AI agents that actually take action on behalf of a customer. So you need to think about how to orchestrate a lot of different AI agents on scale in an enterprise environment. You need to think about how to define the right compliance layers so that the guardrails or the security measurements are in place. You need to think about how to simulate and evaluate millions and millions of conversations your AI agents will have in order to guarantee the highest accuracy possible. So there is a completely new way how to implement AI into the enterprise, and there needs to be the right infrastructure in place in order to bring agentic AI to the masses. It can bring you significant value. It can transform your customer experience, but you need to start implementing the right processes and the right infrastructure in order to get there.
So that makes a very good segue now, because one of the things we've wanted to give our audience is a sense of how these journeys are playing out in organizations today. Brian, what are you seeing in your clients? What are some of the cool and interesting things that they're starting to do with Gen AI and especially agentic AI?
It's absolutely an interesting time to be working in this space. And if you speak to 100 different clients, what you'll find is 99 of them will be telling you, yes, we're doing something. Now, the part that gets the most airtime is about autopilot or things around sort of chat and voice bots. And what you see there is that most clients that you talk to, in fact, 95% when we did a recent survey, said that they were still stuck in pilot phase where 5% were scaled. So it's not easy, but the ones that do it, it's really quite impressive. Things like co-pilot solutions and AI coaching, so where agents are being fed the information to create a better experience for the customer in a quicker way, those actually have a bit more traction, with between 30 and 45% currently being at scale when we ask our clients, depending on the use case. And so I do think that we're going to see autopilot picking up. We're going to see the voice bots and the chat bots improve as the technology improves. But certainly where we're seeing the most traction, our clients, where the impact, where they're seeing the impact at scale, is on some of the things that I would say are a little bit less obvious.
What are some good examples of the stuff that's less obvious, the things that maybe get us out of this traditional customer care space more into other back office or mid office functions?
One example is sort of coaching for the agent. So we've seen with a telco, both in North America and another one in Europe, where they have built algorithms which have been able to identify opportunities for coaching and for learning for call center agents and for field service agents, being able to intervene and say, hey, we see that there's a particular type of call or there's a particular issue that you're dealing with in the field that you're not doing so well on. And we produce then a customized learning journey for that employee. And then we can see if it was effective or not. So over a 12-week period or 15-week period, they get periodic sort of pushes of anything from like a small video to a PDF, really things that take 2 to 3 minutes each on a regular basis, a couple times a week. And we can see if it's effective. If it's effective, then we push that up in the algorithm. And then the people that have a sort of similar profile will then be pushed similar content.
What sorts of metrics are we seeing improve in these organizations?
We're seeing improvements across the board, but the first and most obvious one where you can really tie a dollar value to it is a reduction in the average handle time, so how long it's taking somebody to handle the inquiry. But more importantly, from a customer point of view, first contact resolution is improving, meaning that people don't need to call back to try and resolve their issue. They're getting it done the first time.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So that raises a great question, because when we talk about implementation, one of the issues that's been, I think, longstanding in many organizations is the collaboration that's needed between the COO, the Chief Operating Officer, on the one side, and the CIO, the Chief Information Officer, on the other. So, Oana, over to you. How are you seeing organizations overcome this kind of longstanding barrier and learn to speak a common language?
Excellent question. Indeed, alignment between the CIO and COO is critical for success. Without it, we've seen companies risk misalignment that may undermine execution and ultimately dilute business value. What we've seen successful is really a joint ownership of outcomes, if you will. Successful companies ensure share accountability between the two branches. They align business outcomes, tying KPIs, incentives, race to those goals, and AI gets fully integrated in those operations, not just siloed to IT. There's also a need to embed collaboration into decision making. As I said, it's not about technology. It's how do we create those feedback loops where operations and different functional areas like sales would guide AI decisions, ensure it enhances rather than disrupts daily operations. The second thing that comes to my mind is role modeling leadership, as those leaders who champion collaboration between IT and operations drive a true cultural change right now. Co-authored roadmaps, if you will, and joint strategy session reinforce AI as a company-wide initiative. For instance, at one client, once the business defined their future vision, the focus was not where does AI fit? It was what should AI own as we execute on this new vision? To really implement and think through agentic AI, think about it as a team member, not a tool. So the push was what tasks can we delegate? How do we measure their success? As AI agents evolve from assistance to fully owning workflows, with humans ultimately stepping in and only as oversight, the COO and CIO organizations must collaborate closely to design a performance management framework that provides real-time feedback. This specific framework should support agility, should adapt to the changing dynamics of a digital workforce or hybrid workforce.
So what does that mean pragmatically?
It will allow both teams to track performance gaps, refine or redefine processes, and ensure human oversight maintains the right balance with automation. By working together, the two offices will ensure a seamless integration of AI into operations while maintaining effective oversight and continuous improvement.
Fantastic. Thank you. Brian, how are you seeing this play out in some of your clients' organizations?
I think the first thing I would say is that where the job of the CIO ends and that of the COO begins is starting to blur, where I think in the past it was a little bit more clear that the infrastructure needs to work, the telephony system needs to work, the CRM needs to be there. That's the job of the CIO, and operations needs to deliver the experience. As the technology is delivering the experience, that is really sort of erasing some of those traditional lines. And so really what we see now is that the CIO or the folks in the role of technology and those in operations, they really need to work together in teams to make things happen.
And when that doesn't?
If you just make the implementation of agentic AI or any other technology solution purely a technology implementation, a technology project, it's more or less bound to fail from my point of view. It really needs to be both teams working together to make sure that it's secure, to make sure that it integrates with all of the other systems. That's the job of the CIO, and the operations need to make sure that it delivers impact and that there's an ROI on the investment that's made in these things, because they're not free. They do cost money, and you need to make sure that at the end of the day, you're able to have measurable results. Where I think if we go back 2 years ago, people were just trying to do something. Increasingly, the CFO is now looking at and asking both the CIO and the COO, okay, so you've spent this money. What do you have to show for it? And both teams are accountable for that.
What sorts of either cultural, managerial metrics do companies need to sort of rethink in order to enable this collaboration? Like what's kind of on the back end or on the human side of this that helps this work more effectively going forward?
I think that the answer is less about the difference between the CIO's office and the COO's office, but rather between operation, whoever owns the front end. What do I mean by front end? The website, the app, sort of how customers enter the world of care before they speak to a human. That what we oftentimes see in organizations is that those are two very different owners. They often talk to each other, but maybe don't. And if you really want to do this right, particularly when we're talking about customer-facing solutions that are speaking to a customer and interacting with a customer, those two departments need to work together. And I would even argue that there probably needs to be one overall ownership of the entire journey, starting from where you enter to where you end up with the human in the end, which I think is different than how most organizations have thought in the past, that there's a digital group that owns the engagement when the human is not involved, even to the point where they might be dealing with a chatbot. and a different group that then deals with the human interaction. I think that line is being blurred, and it becomes very difficult to make it happen if you don't have that joined up in some way.
And Malte, for those who are getting it right, those organizations where the CIO and COO organizations are collaborating increasingly effectively, how does agentic AI itself play a role in the next evolution of this technology?
Great question. Because we believe that customer experience will change more drastically than it has ever changed before. So every homepage, every app, every customer touch point will look differently in the next 3 to 5 years. Every touch point will become conversational, and there will be a personal AI agent talking to customers in more or less every single touch point potentially. So imagine you're calling an airline, and right now, if you would call an airline, you would probably wait in line for 15 minutes, and then you would talk to a different person every single time. But now imagine you're calling an airline, and after 1 second, your personal AI agent picks up and says, "Hey, Christian, how are you? Have you decided if you want to upgrade to business class for your next flight from New York to San Francisco? If no, no worries, just call me back in 20 minutes. And in 20 minutes, this same personal AI agent would pick up the phone if you call again. And after 1 second, the same voice, the AI agent with the same context says, "Hey, Christian, have you decided? I can help you with upgrading your flight."
But let's say I'm in a meeting and I can't call.
If you don't want to call, you could also take out your smartphone and you write a WhatsApp, you write an iMessage to have a chat in order to upgrade your flight. And if you don't want to chat or don't want to call, maybe on Monday next week, your personal AI agent might call you and says, "Hey, Christian, there are just 2 seats available in business class. Do you want to have one of those flights? Otherwise, I would give those seats to someone else." So it's a completely different relationship between the customer and the company. And if an airline has 100 million customers, an airline will have 100 million personal AI agents. And those personal AI agents are guiding the customer along the whole customer journey and not just doing customer support. They're actually doing sales, marketing. They are building a relationship. So that's a paradigm shift, how customer experience is being done. And every enterprise now need to start thinking about how to implement AI agents across the different touch points. As I mentioned before, we are seeing that customer experience will change drastically. So we always say start small, integrate first systems, learn fast, and think big, because this is another big opportunity for every enterprise out there to make big leaps forward in customer experience.
So that is obviously a really compelling vision. It does raise, I think, some really profound questions about talent and about what sort of talent needs we are going to have, what sort of talent needs organizations, whole societies are going to need. So, Oana, I was wondering if we could get some perspective from you on some of the talent solutions that you're seeing and some of the talent questions that organizations are grappling with.
Sure. And it's interesting because for a long time, we've been talking about the need for technical talent, from engineers to data scientists, cybersecurity experts, and so on. There's been less attention on truly how organizations should think holistically about their talent revolution. Right now, we're moving to finally start talking about that and less about the technical specialists, more of like how do the companies rethink their entire workforce structure? How do they allocate roles? What skills are needed? How teams are getting optimized to work alongside AI and the AI agents and manage that blended human digital workforce. And truly the real challenge turns out to how do we adapt the operational talent to complement AI? And that's what I want to leave you with.
So what are some of the models that seem to be working?
There are different ways that leading companies and successful companies are approaching this, from reskilling and upskilling, which also includes building AI literacy across their workforce, to reframing roles. Not just the repetitive routine tasks and that go away, but more the focus towards relationship management, strategic thinking, complex problem solving. Think how do you blend more like customer care experience support with sales?
Companies already have some experience with that, no?
There's more of proliferation of not just cross-functional collaboration when you're looking at how do you actually think through dynamic data-informed decision-making, but how do you merge functions that in the past traditionally have been siloed as the different roles may be merging and there's a more integrated approach, how, as mentioned, customer service may work with sales in the future. And they would all be using AI tools to drive customer satisfaction, retention, engagement real time. So thinking beyond this technical skills and thinking about new roles such as customer journey architects and more of the human in the loop sort of a role that oversees a lot of what AI does, the focus is to evolve that team structure, to upgrade those skill sets and think through the new roles that would help unlock the full potential of AI and move us from short-term to long-term value.
Brian, we've heard a great vision of the future, I think really inspiring for our audience today. What are some of the critical things that companies need to get right first in order to make this vision a reality?
I would bucket them into three different groups, the hurdles that I see clients facing in making the vision a reality. The first is around security and regulation. So ensuring that things are secure, that things are safe, and that you're not going to follow the regulators by doing something wrong. And this turns out that most enterprise clients are quite conservative in this. They don't want the regulator on their back. So that's the first bucket. The second is around data and systems, particularly in the enterprise segment. Call center agents, people working in customer care have to deal with a wide variety of systems, a wide variety of data sets in order to do their job. So we often see that an agent might need to access up to 7 or 10 systems to do his job, that the data is not great and can be fragmented and be spread across different systems. It's the reason why, you call a lot of places, they don't know who you are when you call, even though they should.
Yeah, very frustrating from a customer perspective.
And the third, which I think is less obvious for those that don't spend a lot of time in contact centers, but will be obvious to anybody that's worked in one, is that there's actually a lot that an agent does that isn't documented anywhere. So I think there's probably a belief that most contact center agents work through and read a script. That is not the case for most of what contact center agents do. In fact, we recently did a small piece of research where we found that almost 70% of respondents working in the contact center told us that at least 25% of what they have to do on a daily basis simply isn't documented anywhere. It's a bit like folklore. It's passed down through the generations from the person that sat in the chair before them. And so as long as you're not able to overcome that, then it's going to be difficult for Agentic AI to provide an answer. That being said, the answers exist. The answers exist in call transcripts. They exist in chat transcripts. And so being able to unlock that as a data source will be super powerful in overcoming this last challenge.
Excellent. And it sounds, at least to my layperson's ears, that to some degree, Agentic AI would be a great technology to mine, to extract some of that information in a useful way. Am I correct in assuming that?
I think if that's absolutely an opportunity for the technology to be able to overcome some of the challenges that exist today. And the evidence isn't there yet that it's happened, but this space is moving so quickly, I think it's only a matter of time before somebody cracks that.
Excellent. So we've had a great vision of what Gen AI and especially Agentic AI can now do for organizations. Before we go today, I'd love to get from each of you a thought about where companies should begin in their journey right now.
I would say design for autonomy and disruption in the long run, but focus on the building blocks in the short run.
We always say start small, integrate the first systems, learn quick, and think big, because this is another big opportunity for every enterprise out there to make big leaps forward in their customer experience.
I think that's spot on. Thinking big, having a vision, I think is important, but being able to start with something that you can show tangible results is quite important. And I think related to that, believing that technology is the solution is probably the wrong way to start. It is part of it. Change management, changing people's behaviors, and really understanding how the operations work is equally as important. So I would just encourage people to not believe if somebody's telling you that whatever piece of technology they're trying to sell you is going to solve all of their problems, that's likely not the case, that it's going to require a bit more effort than that.
Excellent. Thank you, Brian, Malte, Oana. I'd like to thank all of our guests today for joining us to explore the breakthrough potential for Agentic AI, most importantly in productivity, but also in service quality, responsiveness, employee engagement. That's extraordinary value for today's leaders to create. You've been listening to McKinsey Talks Operations. If you like what you've heard, be sure to subscribe and stay tuned. Another great episode starts now.